Welcome back. It's probably a time you have all been waiting for, and that is me pulling my finger out, getting on with the welding at the back of the blue SD1 turbo. It's been delayed for numerous reasons. Most of them were COVID related, because this of course was at work and couldn't do anything there, which is why I got sidetracked and did Dotty, which is why I then got sidetracked and carried on with that, which is why I accidentally ended up buying that 420 GSI, why I ended up buying that white thing, although I didn't intend to. I just still have got it here. But yeah, I'm gonna now attack the back of the car. I am going to change the rear lamp panel, so I'm going to chop that out first. While it's out, that'll give me better access to lean in and weld in some of these floor repairs neatly, instead of having to lean right over the back of the car. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and get my bits of rag to protect that car, the tailgate glass, that window, and also the windscreen, because that's brand new, and then I shall get chopping. Car is masked up, that is protected. Good news is I never actually welded this skin to that panel, so it's not actually attached along there. I will need to drill out my beautiful plug welds. I will need to drill out the original spot welds in there, same at the other end, and then I'll just saw straight through the bottom, and then that whole lump can come out, and then I'll need to find something else to hold my tailgate up. Starting at this end, I'm just giving it a tickle with the sander down there so I can see where the spot welds are. Now I'm drilling through them. I'll do the same with these, same at the other end, and then the fun chopping out the big bit. Those are drilled out. I'm just going to use paint scraper and hammer to gently tease these surfaces away. If they don't want to come apart, then I won't bother going too heavy with the chisel, because all of this is being cut out anyway. So what I might do is try it. If they ping and pop and I can open it up, great. If I can't, then I'll just cut through here with the saw, and I can pick those bits off afterwards and see the spot welds better from underneath and cut up into it and use pliers to pull it off. I've also sanded through the bead of weld that was just holding that lip on, because it would be nice to keep this in its nice shape, so I can use it as reference for when I put the other lamp panel back in. So yeah, if I can avoid butchering this too much, I will. So that has pinged from there. These ones are just hanging off at the front edge, so I put a saw through, pushed that down, put a chisel through there, and it's just sort of hanging, waiting to come off. But I'm not going to risk manipulating it anymore. I'm going to get all of it out of the way, then that will just break off back and forth with a pair of pliers. So this side, my drill has run out of battery, so I am actually just going to skip that bit, just get the grinder out, cut all that off, get it out of the way. That actually came out pretty neat, and what's even better is when I was lifting this panel off, that bit just broke free, so that's really good. The other interesting thing, there's actually quite a lot of filler in this, which I only realised when I was cutting through it. You can see the filler dust, so I'm even more certain that chopping out was the right thing to do. This area needs absolutely minimum prep because it's essentially all new. I'll need to pick off that flange there. That's the rear bumper support mount and chassis rail. They always like to rot between here and here, so that's a big like 2mm plate, and that's a bit on top, so I might have an excavate to see what's in there. All of these flanges will need picking off. That all looks really nice and solid. I was a bit worried that maybe there was filler under here or in there, but I think it's just the original factory brazing. So it's going to be the long boring process of trimming all of these flanges off. I'm going to do it now because I don't want to be leaning over sharp edges when I'm repairing that bit of the boot floor. So some people use a spot weld drill to drill through all the spot welds. Other people will drill all the way through like I did here and then weld from underneath, but it's much easier welding from above. So what I'm going to do is cut slots with the thin blade just through the top and then pick this off with a chisel and a pair of pliers. It's quite a long process, but it's neatest. You don't damage the material underneath, and it's my preferred method. Just started cutting slots in here, so where the spot welds aren't, get man, should just pick off, and where the spot welds are it will stay, but I know where I can either go a bit harder with the sander or grinder, get rid of this. The seam underneath, although it looks a bit crusty, is actually still good metal, so that's a relief. So I'm just going to work my way across, same approach up these seams here as well, and pick that bit out of there. We are making progress. All of that's cleaned up nicely, all of that's cleaned up nicely. This bit I've had to chop a section out because it was rustier than I could live with. All the rest of it is really nice. This area is good. I thought I'd have to be repairing that, and I don't. It's really good up to here, and then up there we've got some cracking, and basically this whole area had filler in it. And when I've looked more closely, I think the car has had a little soft impact at the back and then been repainted, because that shouldn't have cracked. There was weird welds in here that shouldn't have been there. There's rust on the back where it looks like there's been a dent that's been filled or pulled out. There's a bit of a ripple there. So I think basically it's had a very light tap and then been repaired. But the good news is that there's nothing, you know, that inner skin isn't buckled. That I guess could be factory, maybe. Yeah, that hasn't moved. If that had moved, we'd have a fucked boot floor and everything, but we don't. So that's all good news. So a little bit of a repair up there that I hadn't anticipated. Bit more to do down here, but I kind of knew I would. So I'm gonna get some zinc paint or Red X. Actually, yeah, I might do it in Bonder primer, just to give it that extra protection, and then I can start repairing that bit, making up my patches for there, here, do all those bits, excavate that side, fix all that, then I can put the new rear lamp panel in. I was going to put the red Bonder primer on it, but instead I'm going to put the U-Pole weld through primer, because it should do a good job of just keeping the flash rust off, but without wasting that stuff. And I'd only have to sand this off anyway. Done some cardboard engineering out of corner scallops packets, which aren't that bad considering they don't have meat in. Quite impressive. That is a rough blank for going in there, so I've replicated that seam under here to sit in on that channel there. This bit is the return that butts up along there and becomes the boot floor. It might look a bit of a messy, weird way of doing it, but it's because there's a bracket on the underside here that I want to retain, hence why it's a bit of a patchwork, but trust me, it will be fine. So I'm going to do some final fettling of them, weld them in, weld that in. I'll leave this bit probably until I put the rear lamp panel in, because then I can make all of this neat, or certainly I won't bother fabricating the patch until I've got the rear lamp panel balanced in, and then later this afternoon I'll start poking that area. Forgotten how time consuming all of this was. That's my plate that goes in there. Just put some zinc on there. I've drilled 3 plug holes and I'll be welding through those onto that rear arch in a wheel well. Then where I've had to cut slots to create the flange, I'll fill those in as well. So in effect, those 3 slots will become avenues for additional plug welds. So I'm going to offer that up. I've got an array of little clamps, which should be enough to get it at least touching in a couple of places, and then I'll weld and beat until it's all nice. And I'll be putting that to the wheel well first, and then bringing the boot floor up to meet it, because I made that before I cut this off. I remember doing that deliberately so that I kept the levels of everything correct. I was planning on GoProing this, but it's cold and the battery's gone flat. But I have put in, this looks horrible by the way, I was struggling with the welder basically. I've been leaving the welder outside and the wire had gone shite, so it made some shitty welds to start with, so I've had to fiddle around with the reel, sorry. But yeah, now it's going again. A few tacks in the top because trying to clamp it from underneath was messing up with all the levels, so I gave up trying to use my flange as a reference, so I measured distances from that edge there to here and then to here, and then from there down to the floor on this side, because that side's never been disturbed. And then I drew a pen line, you can just see it there, and tacked this to that first. Then I can weld all this in with the floor at the right place. Then I can go underneath the car, close up that seam and plug weld through. Then I can do that bit. So that's what's going on, and I'm going to do a tiny bit more, and then I'm going to go have some lunch and warm up a bit. It's 1 o'clock, so I'm going to go in for some lunch. I have just welded in that bit. There was a bit of a shitty bit there. The bracket underneath had held some water, so when I welded what looked like good metal from the top, it went woof and turned into a big hole, so I had to weld that up. But with a bit of a dressing, that should all be nice. They're all decent welds. I tacked it in there as well. Over this side, you might think, why have I welded a piece of copper pipe into the back of the car? I haven't. While I was like zip trying to not heat that area too much, and I thought, oh, I'll play around with this bit. You might remember this had some weird crack and rust hole in it, so I put this piece of, fuck me, that's still goddamn hot. Put a piece of copper pipe flattened in behind and then welded into it, so it chased all the weld and the rust and the cracks, and allowed me to put a lot of heat in there without blowing too many big holes. And that should just come off now because the copper doesn't stick to the steel. So now I have nice solid metal with a lot of penetration. That is basically all, ow, one big chunk of metal now. So I can use my grinder or finger sander, power file, whatever you want to call it, to grind that into shape. Don't have to be super critical here because the tail light covers most of this. You can still sort of see the indentation from it, goes in there, so it will really just be that bit, but we want it nice and smooth so it will seal properly. But yeah, I'm going to go and have some lunch and charge my GoPro so you can actually see the welding, because I know people like that. Back from lunch, and I kind of wish I'd cracked on a bit more because it's just started raining, which is annoying. It's not hard, but it's there. That's the next patch to go in. I've just trimmed and profiled it a bit more. This I have got the repair on, but rather than put the plug weld holes through there, I'm going to put them through the skin here. It'll be easier to get to than from this side underneath, because there's that recess. I would have to be aiming up and in, which would be a pain. So where's my drill? There's the drill. Little pilot hole. Put some holes through there, drill them out bigger, clamp that in, weld it top down first with that clamped in. I've charged up the GoPro, so hopefully I can do some action shots. Just so you get an idea of what's going on, that panel is held down, seam matches there, clamped, and my plug weld holes are all drilled and ready, so that's all looking good. So I'm gonna weld in along here, then while it's still warm, tap this down to meet, hit it where it sticks, you know, beat and repeat. So that's what will be going on. Hopefully the GoPro has enough battery to show some of it. Might even have enough battery to show me plug welding from that side, but we shall see. Fingers crossed. Picked up the wrong camera, but never mind, that's welded in to the boot floor. Now I just need to set up the camera again and plug weld through from this side through those little holes. I'll have to turn the welder up a bit as well, because that's on a fairly medium type setting at the moment. That one was done with the settings low, medium, even higher, and that worked really nicely. I'm going to try and do that one live so you can see what's going on. No idea if that's recorded or not, because the GoPro has not been a happy bunny, and it doesn't have its sound case. That's the no microphone case, so you may not have been able to hear what was going on. But basically I did the plug welds this side. The one closest to us now was done with the same welder settings as the seam welding I was doing inside. Then as I went backwards, I adjusted the heat up and I got a lot of nice penetration, so that's all really good under there. You can feel that it's come all the way through. A lot of times people do plug welding and they don't drill the hole big enough, or they don't hold the trigger long enough, and they fill in the hole, but it hasn't actually penetrated into the panel on the back, and you can hit it with a chisel and they just go ping 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 and all fall apart, whereas that is very solid. That ain't going to come apart. I'm now going to do something which probably won't film because you won't be able to see it anyway, but I will get under there, clean up that flange, hammer that tight, plug weld it while I've got the plug welder settings, roll that lip up a bit, and then that seam will be about ready done. There will need to be, well, there should be a panel between here and into that seam, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to stitch that onto there. It should do that basically, but there's no point chopping up a ribbon of steel just to stabilize that, so I'm just going to stitch it in a couple of places along the bottom. Yeah, I'm just going to carrying on. Don't be scared about the horrors I'm about to show you. That's all lovely. That's the bit I've just done. This is going to be lovely. That's the bit I'm about to do. So this is the back side of, or the underside of that panel I put in. Those tabs up there, I don't know whether you can see them. Those are left over from ages ago when I put this piece in, and the back corner of the boot floor, probably, I don't know, a year ago. up here, this is the result of not having, I'd totally forgotten that I hadn't put any rust preservative on, or rust killer or paint. That is just bare metal from when I welded that patch in. Although I red oxided the top, I didn't do the bottom, which was really stupid. So basically, at some point in the future, I'm gonna have to get the back of the car up really high in the air and grind all of the underside of this off. I was gonna do that anyway, it just means I'll probably do it more recently. It's not bad because I've just sanded that bit off and it's all nice. All of these seams are quite closed up. That's just, you know, tiny beginnings of rust. So it's a bit of a shame. Lesson learned, treat it as soon as you've welded it. So I'm going to now get in there with the welder, weld all that up, then hammer it, hammer that seam up, then probably red oxide all of it, and have to come back another day to do the final prep of all of the underside of this. I don't really want to have to drop the rear axle to do it, and I hopefully won't need to. Going around now filling in all of the holes that were from the old tow bar that I don't need, and I'm very pleased that I don't have the rear lamp panel in the way for doing this, because it would have been a right pain. It's got a big one here for the tow bar electrics, I guess. Oops. So I might re-employ Mr. Copper Tube to weld onto that. There's a crack there which I uncovered, so I'll weld that up with the welder set to really low, and I still need to make up and fit a patch for there, and then I've got my tie down strap for the spare wheel that needs to go back in there, so I'll do that. Hopefully I'll get all that done tonight, and then tomorrow can be doing that area and starting to fit the rear lamp panel. Starting to lose the light now. It may not look like it on camera, but the camera's good for compensating, whereas my eyeballs aren't. That goes in there. Again, it'll be another one of those tack it and bash it type repairs, but it's bigger than the hole, and that's all that matters. It's officially beer o'clock. Tidied up, made quite a lot of progress today. I didn't really have a goal in mind, but it's good to have that side finished off, albeit this bit needs doing. Plug to go in, but I'll do that when I'm seam sealing the whole boot floor. That's done. All of the tow bar holes are filled in. They need a little bit more dressing, some of them. Tomorrow's fun will be poking around in this area. Most of this is okay. The exhaust hanger bracket has bubbled up, so that will probably need to be chopped out. The bracket saved, patch, put the bracket back on. This area I will need to do a bit more poking around, and it's annoying, that wheel well thing I was hoping to retain as much as possible, but I won't really know how good it is until I've picked off all the underseal from this side, because they can hide a lot of crap that you don't notice. Rear apron has gone, so that'll need to be refabricated. There's a bubble there. I don't know whether that's rust or just seam sealer. We'll find out tomorrow. This wheel arch is really nice all the way around, so that's good. This rear end of the sill needs to be chopped out and replaced. Does this door open? Well, from memory there's a hole down there that needs doing. But yeah, tomorrow continue with the boot floor area, mock up the rear lamp panel, and basically keep on the weldathon ready. Bye.